Why did you choose him? There are probably 10 other men that you could be hunting for. Why him?
Nobody else in the UK is wanted for 2 separate murders. And those crimes speak for themselves. They're ghastly, you know? And this isn't about Kevin Parle, and it most definitely is not about me. This is about Liam and Lucy. This is about right over wrong. This is about truth over lies. This is about having a sense of, or not having a sense of, this is about justice. And seeing a man who is wanted for both those crimes standing in a court and answering the accusations that are made against him. And then let justice run its course. There has to be a sense of justice. Any injustice that I feel is dwarfed, is pathetic, doesn't come anywhere near the pain and the suffering and the hurt that I should imagine Liam and Lucy's families and loved ones have been through. He needs to be found.
Where is he?
Well, I can't tell you that now because, of course, without a doubt, one of Kevin Parle's associates, if not Kevin Parle himself, will be watching this. And I'm not going to tip them or him the wink. He's very much alive. Don't believe the urban myths that he's dead and he's fish food and all that nonsense. He's very much alive and he is going to be found. He is going to be found. Now, not long after I'd started my hunt for him, very fortunately and thankfully, the BBC commissioned a podcast series on my hunt for him. And that is still there on BBC Sounds. It's called Manhunt, Finding Kevin Parle. There's 12 episodes up there. The BBC have commissioned another 6 episodes. But because I can't put into the public domain what I know at the moment, you won't be hearing any of those episodes just now. But as soon as we can get them out there, we will. Then, of course, only recently, my book was published. Now, let me just tell you, and I make no apologies for the plug, okay? This book is a very different vehicle from the podcast. Listen to the podcast, read the book, please. If you look at the incredibly generous reviews that people have put on Amazon, Waterstones, The Works, and all those kind of places where you can buy it. If you look at the reviews, they are, well, I'm flabbergasted by them. They're terrific. But people, fans of the podcast, have said, oh, shall I buy the book? You know, I've listened to the podcast. And they've kindly written reviews and said, separate things, got an awful lot out of it. You know, you need to do both. So please, this is not about profit. This is not about putting money in my pocket, because I very much doubt that it will ever sell in sufficient numbers for me to get a royalty check. This is about Parle, not profit. The more copies this book sells, the more likely it is that my publisher will get into profit. And if my publisher gets into profit, what will they then do? Hopefully, give me a contract to write perhaps the book about how we actually caught him. You know? But that's some way off. So please, read this, help me out, get me some funds to continue my hunt. It's all in there, how much I've been paid, how much I've spent. I have not put one carrot on my family's dining table out of everything I've done in my hunt for Parle.
How do you hunt this man? Digitally, shoe leather, and how do you do it when you're not a police officer?
Well, of course, you've nailed it. I'm an old shoe leather detective, aren't I? You know, I come from that generation. Yeah. We had no computers back in the day.
You did your detective work on me.
Yeah, of course. Due diligence, we'll call it, shall we? Yeah. So, but I have taught myself to become a digital detective. I have an open source expert who's a specialist in his field, and I have others who help me from time to time when I call upon them. I've got one of the world's best geographical analysts working for me as well. So I've got a small and select team of people that help me out. But of course they're volunteers, and volunteering only goes so much. You know, if they've got paid work and their family, that's going to come in front of me ringing them up or emailing them and saying, please, can you have a look at this? Can you give me a bit of help here and all of that? But that's wonderful. Overwhelmingly, the help has come from the great public, the public who've listened to the podcast, who have seen some of the media, you know, the articles and the radio interviews I've given. 2.5 million people have listened to the podcast, or it's had 2.5 million downloads, I should say, across the 12 episodes. And people are reading the book. I always hoped that the book would be yet another tool that might tempt people to come forward and speak to me, because they'll read it and go, do you know what? That people, he's all right. I'm going to tell him what I know. And people are, and they do. In fact, you know, I've got a story that I've only just been made privy to. Right? It's a historical one about Kevin Parle, and I can't tell whether it's true or not, but this gives you an insight into the man either way. We know, and it's been out there, that he had a video on his phone of his dog attacking and dismembering sheep, which he found funny, right? He thinks that kind of stuff is funny, right? Well, I and many thousands of people don't, right? Got told another story. He and some associates went to Knowsley Safari Park, right? One of a few safari parks in the UK. Knowsley is up in Merseyside, near Liverpool. And we're talking about around about 2004, when the year that Liam got shot. This is the story as it was told to my source. Parle and his mates stole a baby baboon from this safari park, much to the annoyance of a very, very distressed mother of the baby baboon. They wrapped it in a blanket, hid it in the back of the car, and later sold it for £3,000. Now, if it's true, then I don't need to add anything to that story, because it tells you everything you need to know about Kevin Parle and his associates. Nothing I could add. If it's made up and it was just a boast that he was trying to tell people, you know, to try and gain some kind of kudos, well, once again, I don't need to add very much to it, do I? Because it gives you the mark of the man. He needs to be found. He will be found, undoubtedly, because even when there's no more podcasts commissioned, even when there's no more book contracts, even when people are sick and tired of me talking about Kevin Parle, I'll still be hunting him if he hasn't already been captured.